Hello and welcome to the AdTech Heroes podcast. In today's episode, we are going to talk about barter, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dom Blacklock. Dom has worked in digital and programmatic for just shy of 10 years, working at the likes of MediaMath, Dentsu, and the Seven Stars. He now works for Active International as their VP of Programmatic. Hi Dom, how's it going?
Dal, I'm good. Thanks so much for having me, and love the podcast and the initiative. So yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting today.
It's great to have you on board today. Just to kind of kickstart, really, it'd be great to find out more about your background and your career.
Sure. I don't know how far to go back, but it's probably worth mentioning, as I do in most conversations, that I studied maths at university in obviously glorious London, and a lot of what I did in maths, I knew I never wanted to go into an applied type of area like physics or statistics or finance and use maths in that area. I wanted to be a bit more creative with it, and people forget that maths is actually quite creative. It's all about having a problem ahead of you, working out how you use your tool set to solve that problem and find a solution. To me, it's really creative. It's about building solutions. It's about trying to solve things or optimize things or improve things. And so going into marketing, especially at that time, 10 years ago, it was, the growth of DSPs, the growth of programmatic, growth of digital and data in general. So it was a really good fit for me to use what I learned in a different kind of context, which was great. As you said, I worked DSP side at MediaMath. I've done my stint at a couple of agencies. My last role was at the Seven Stars. And so, yeah, it's just really been about supporting clients within digital and programmatic, helping campaigns, helping teams run those campaigns, and then, stretching into technology, data, AI solutions, creative innovation within tech and data, and just in general being in that world. And then, again, as you said, I've moved into the world of barter or corporate trade, which we'll come on to, obviously, at Active International. I joined at the very beginning of lockdown, so it has been strange. My window to the world of the company has been via this laptop. Obviously, since then, I've been able to get into the office and meet quite a few people. But yeah, I've been one of those COVID employees that joined halfway through. But really excited about what we're doing. It's a slightly different area for me. So yeah, just keen to share what we're up to.
And your day-to-day, I'm guessing, has changed a lot over the years, from working DSP side to agency side to now in the world of corporate trade. How's that changed, or has it changed?
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, because DSP side is obviously fairly quite operational, technical. You're either in the weeds of it, and you're behind the scenes helping it all connect up to the supply, or you are more client facing or agency facing and trying to work out how to get people using that technology as much as possible. So much more on the operations and tech side. But then when you go to agency, when I went to agency, it was all about team managing and helping clients use that medium. So more about strategy and implementation. And then now my role is within the world of corporate trade and barter. We're a financial service. We create really flexible commercial arrangements for clients and media owners and agencies. So it's a really unique commercial role that I'm really enjoying at the moment, because it's just it is something different, but it's still, I've still got a good half of my body in the AdTech world, which is obviously my background.
Amazing. For those of who don't know, what is corporate trade?
That's a good question. I mean, it's a complicated area. I could speak for hours about it. I'm the tech expert, I guess, the programmatic expert for Active, but I will do my best to explain to the layman what corporate trade is. So barter or corporate trade is the same type of business. It's commonly known as barter. We tend to call it or talk about ourselves as corporate trade, because it's much more than one-to-one transactions. It's not just a company using their product to pay someone using that in using that product. Corporate trade is more about managing the multiple types of trade deals that we have and all the types of products that we have, and then utilizing that as a pot of trade to help other clients pay for it. So it's a much broader term of doing it. So I'll probably talk about it interjecting barter and corporate trade, but it's just good for everyone to know that we are essentially a traditional barter company through corporate trade. But in essence, it's a way for clients and media owners to achieve more from their products. So by client, I mean brands or companies that advertise. So it's a way of funding their marketing or their business costs through their product. So that product could be flights, it could be hotels, it could be retail, it could be FMCG, it could be anything. And then for media owners, their product is their inventory, their advertisement space. So we work across the supply and demand to manage that transaction seamlessly using their product. So the stock can be in the form of excess or obsolete or first line products. So a brand will have excess stock, obsolete or first line products. And then they might have different objectives within their goal, within their financial management. And then, they utilize that with us. In exchange, we buy that off them. We exchange trade credit, which is our currency, for them to then utilize that trade credit within their marketing budget. So as a top line, it's paying for their marketing with something that is obsolete or excess. That's broadly what we do, but it's like a Swiss Army knife. There are so many different ways that we can manage that. But the best example is we help one of the largest airlines out there. We have done for many years. They utilize their airline tickets to increase their advertisement and to support their cash buys with the value from their airline tickets to pay for their marketing across all marketing channels.
How are media owners reacting, I suppose, to taking payment in other than cash? Have they been quite collaborative in that sense, or does cash still rule? It'd be great to understand the media owners and the kind of the part that they play within the kind of chain.
Yeah, well, they love working with us because they can sell their inventory using trade credits as well. So they will accept payment from us in trade. They have hard business costs. Every media owner has an office. They have computers. They have printers. They pay for utilities. They're starting to pay, like before 2020, they're starting to pay for flights and hotels and for conferences. And so that's a hard cost on their books, and we can help alleviate those hard costs just by utilizing our trade in their transaction of their media space. So they like working with us because it's a lot easier for them to manage their books. And of course they see the incremental budgets that we can bring to the table because we're creating budget out of stock and product from the clients.
Okay. So there's lots of different ways of working. You mentioned there are different types of transactions. Could you just go through a few of the different options that are available to, I suppose, media owners as well as agencies and brands?
I mean, in essence, it's transacting in our currency of trade credit. So we work with clients to create that trade credit from their value. That then sits on their books alongside their cash. So when they buy marketing, they use their cash, but then they can supplement it or increase it with their trade credit. So that's how they work with us. And then with media owners, it's actually the same setup whereby we pay them in trade credits and cash on the side as well. So it's really no different to buying marketing within a campaign where you have a TV budget, you have a particular TV company you want to purchase. It's just the way that it's transacted and it's paid for is just utilizing our trade credit alongside that.
Okay, no, that makes sense. And I can imagine kind of thinking back many, many years ago, before technology, even before advertising or marketing, barter or transactions, those kind of transactions took place. You think of like, swapping a sheep or a camel for some wheat or whatever it might be. So I suppose in that sense, if you do simplify it, it does all make sense. Do you say, there might be, I suppose, too many people that might think of barter as confusing when it doesn't have to be thought like that?
It is. I mean, the hard thing is it is complicated because there are so many options. We're sometimes it's a challenge because we have so many different ways to do things. It can be a challenge to really fine tune how to what we do and what we can help everyone with. But you're right. it can be really straightforward. It can be product for product. It could be multiple products. The options are fairly endless. So it's just all about working out what do you have, what do you want to buy, and just having that really clear conversation about the commercial options available. And I'm definitely not the expert within corporate trade, as I've only been here a couple of months. But from my experience, we've been it's amazing how creative we can be to help clients, and there is always a win-win with us when we find that real pinpointed solution for clients in creating that value, which they can then pay for marketing and other goods as well. They don't just buy marketing from us. There's plenty of other things that we can help them on because we have so many different trade deals. And then with media owners, again, we can help them in so many different areas. And I'm excited because I'm obviously the resident programmatic tech expert, and clients spend a lot in programmatic technology, data, MarTech, data warehousing, business intelligence solutions, that kind of realm. They spend a lot of their cash in that, and we can help them. We can help them pay for that in different ways. And then media owners invest, particularly over the last couple of years. A lot of the TV companies, out-of-home companies, investing a lot in connecting up to RTV and to programmatic. So again, we can help fund some of those costs. We can help pay for some of that with the trade that we have. And obviously, they have to sell their inventory in exchange for that. But it's just a way to just fund things differently, and it's interesting. And I'm definitely not the expert, but from what I've seen, we have lots of really, really unique conversations about the options we can give.
And you mentioned you work with travel brands, but do you work across all different sectors? Who are your clients that you work with?
Yeah, so we've got quite a few car manufacturers on our books. We've got FMCG brands, energy and utilities, obviously travel, hotels, retail, conferences. Media owners use us as well. Obviously, media owners need to advertise. They need to get audiences on their properties. So a lot of media owners work with us. We're working more with startups and with new to the coming into the industry and working out how to invest and run marketing, which is a big cost. It's a big challenge, obviously, trying to work out the ROI and get out there. It's hard to get your brand big. It's hard. You can't just be a brand overnight. It costs money. So we can help manage that. And we're having lots of interesting digital conversations. We have over 150 clients in the UK. So we work with all types under the sun. And then we're actually the largest corporate trade company. We're fully independent. We're in 14 other markets, which again adds a benefit. So if there are clients that have stock somewhere, but they then want to influence their marketing elsewhere, or if they're struggling to sell their products themselves and they need someone to help them sell it, we've got a whole network of different markets. But probably the best example of a client is Bloom and Wild, which is a flowers delivery service, bloomandwild.com. And we actually we helped them when they were scaling up. They had that challenge of getting those big TV spots out of home spots, and how can they do that with just scaling up and managing those costs. And surprise, surprise, they had a lot of flowers. Surprise, surprise, a lot of people like flowers. So we were able to use the value that Bloom and Wild had in some of their flowers, excess or first line stock, and we were able to influence their marketing budgets, help them be that big brand within the marketing space. And then the added bonus is when we're paying people in flowers, when we're paying media owners and other companies in flowers, it's also getting their brand out there. It's getting their brand in the door of many more people, which is it's just another sales point for them to get their brand out there. So it is amazing what we do and how many different touch points we can have and how brands can benefit in different ways.
And it's a lot more sustainable as well. Like you said, they could have they would have had a lot of excess flowers potentially that would have all gone to waste, really. Whereas you guys found a way of enabling them to still monetize those flowers, and rather than cash, they got another solution from your team. So I think that's a great way of looking at it as well. Is that kind of sustainability element to it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we, again, I'm definitely not the person to really go into detail, but the amount of warehouses that advertisers and brands have with stock sitting there, it's got the wrong branding on the product. Maybe it's going out of date. Maybe they're just using warehouse space with something they don't need. It's sat there for a couple of years. Get rid of that and use that space, which is expensive, for something else. So, yeah, any number of options, and we're definitely, we're able to release some of that and help in the sustainability of it, which is great. I was actually on a call yesterday with a retail fashion brand, and they asked us, not me because I'm not the expert, but they asked our client team. We have some half-finished product, fashion retail product. It's half-finished because we realized it's the wrong thing, or I can't remember what they said. It's not what we wanted. We're not going to be able to sell it. We've changed our mind about this product. Would you buy this off us in exchange for our trade credit, which obviously they can then use? So it's a redundant product that they had. It means nothing to them, and there will be someone that wants to buy that. So we said, yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. We'll work out how we can sell it on in our network, and in exchange you'll get trade credits. So we'll take that off your hands and you can use that. So, any number of things we're here and we can help. So it's interesting.
In that instance, then, do you work with the charities or non-profit organisations, or is it predominantly kind of companies and private sector companies that you work across?
I am going to try and give an example of a campaign, and forgive me, I can't remember who it is, but it was a charity last Christmas, and we helped them with some advertisement space on the Evening Standard. They had a wraparound on the Evening Standard around Christmas. Whether that was charitable or whether we worked with them with stock and services to pay for that, I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Dad, it's amazing how many different financial solutions we can help brands on and how we can influence their marketing. But I think in terms of charity, look, we have lots of different media owner partnerships and lots of different transactions that go on. So we're able to help in any way.
Amazing. So we both have worked in programmatic, probably a similar amount of years, around about 10 years. And to be completely honest with you, I've always worked media owner side, and whenever the word barter kind of came up in conversation from our commercial directors, they'd loop me in and say, Dow, can we run this programmatically? And it's quite easy back then. I'd just simply say no. I'd be like, no, we can't transact because we need to pay our SSPs. We've got our ad serving costs. It's just too complicated. And I'm not going to lie. I just left it at that. And it was what it was. And everything needed to run as a managed IO when it came to barter. That's all changed now, right? What part does programmatic now play in barter? And I'm guessing it's changed a lot from kind of years ago, from when I remember. The simple answer from me was no.
Yeah, and the challenge is we have a really nice solution now at Active, and still some people say it's not possible. It's like, well, let us talk to you about it. It is possible. We're scaling this. We're working with.
That's your role now,
though,
right?
Role.
It's your role is to say yes, it can happen.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all feasible. I mean, you allude to some of the challenges. The Venn diagram of barter and programmatic is a complicated area to be in, and I'm proud to be in there. But yeah, using trade credits is a lot more straightforward on Direct.io. So when clients run TV, out of home, radio, print, sponsorships, or even digital IO, as you said, that's a lot more straightforward because that's all via IO systems and invoicing. When you're putting cash into a buying platform like a DSP or Facebook, Amazon, whatever it is, that's more complicated. And you can't put flowers into a DSP and pay a certain amount in cash and a certain amount in flowers. But what we do have is a really elegant solution which enables it. So it doesn't impact any of the buying or planning that agencies or clients do within their programmatic campaigns. But it does mean that they can, when they're paying within that campaign, we can rectify that and use their trade credit within that transaction. So now might not be the best time because it might take a while and it needs a few diagrams for people to really get it. We do have a white paper coming out which should explain it in some more detail so people can understand it. But our main objective here is to say to a client and to agencies and to media owners, barter exists, corporate trade exists, and when a client has a programmatic plan, they can now use their trade credit within that. They can support their budgets, their cash budgets with trade credit across programmatic, which, as you say, is massively important. A lot of clients spend in the area of programmatic. A lot of shift of out of home and CTV and audio is moving into programmatic. So there's that above the line, below the line, conversation going on. And yeah, it's just exciting to have the opportunity to take it there. It is challenging, as you say, that there are still people that say, no, it can't be done, or how can it be done? There's the complexity of some of the organizations within the big holding groups of how do we make it really seamless, and we don't want to change what you're doing. We want to make sure it locks into everything that you're doing. Programmatic is complicated, as we know, so we just want to say, look, use your trade credit, and off you go.
Yeah, no, I think that's important, isn't it? We need to make sure that everything is available. It's agnostic, and brands, if they come to media owners, they want to work through barter, then that option is available. I think that's a really good point. So within that pipe, then, from a programmatic transaction, does it then require everyone involved within that pipe to opt in? Could you have a DSP, for example, that didn't want to run this barter transaction, but you could have the media owner and the agency and the brand opting in, or do they all need to be kind of on board?
That's a great question. Again, it needs a couple of diagrams and whiteboards to fully explain it, but we have actually multiple permutations, and I go back to my maths degree now, multiple permutations of how the flow of cash and trade can go through the ecosystem. So there are multiple ways to do it in answer to your question. So it could be that it's all going through as cash, and obviously you have to put cash into a DSP. You can't put flowers. So that has to go all in. So a DSP would probably see no different. All the DSP would see is cash going in. Obviously, it's going to be more cash because off platform we're utilizing trade credits. And then we have different setups with SSPs, with media owners, with specialist programmatic networks, with the clients and the way that they're working with their agency, with the agency, and the way the agency is working with the trade desk. So, we've all seen the programmatic different ecosystem, all the partners in the middle, and we're pretty confident that we have every way around doing it. And you know what? Most people, even if they don't understand barter, they get the benefits of it. And so we have very little pushback, to be honest, around utilizing our model.
That's definitely an interesting point there. So everyone doesn't have to be opt in, for example. There are ways around it. There are different options available for each and every transaction. I want to play a little bit of devil's advocate then. So when programmatic did start off kind of 10, 12 years ago, you really did see the benefits because it was a quick transaction. For good or bad reasons, traders didn't need to speak to media owners. They could just set up a deal, open market, or use existing PMP deals, deal IDs. And that kind of transaction was relatively smooth, obviously, until you need to troubleshoot a PMP and then you need to get in contact. Does this step then, is there unnecessary steps then involved with this, or is it smoother than I'm trying to think in my head right now?
We have worked incredibly hard to make sure it's no different. And just to clarify in terms of the opting in, we're here to facilitate a payment from our client and with the media owner. Those two parties are obviously the key ones involved to be opted in, because the media owner is going to be receiving barter payments, and the client is going to be paying in trade credit. So those two have to be opted in. The permutations are all the different people within the middle. In answer to your in answer to your question, sorry, Doug, can you just say that question again? Hopefully we can.
So in terms of is the kind of like the speed of transaction as fast as it would be in a usual programmatic transaction, for a deal ID being set up by a media owner via an SSP to a DSP for an agency or brand?
Yeah, so we've worked really hard to answer that question. We feel quite confident that all of the hard lifting work to make this happen is on our side, behind the scenes. A programmatic planner working with their clients has a programmatic plan, and they know that their client can use a certain amount of trade credits to be bought alongside that plan. So that's upfront. That's how we work across all barter campaigns, all mediums. So that's no different. So that is that's the main change, is that programmatic planners or digital planners are aware that they could use trade credit in their buy to support their budgets. And then it goes to the programmatic buyer, if that's different to the planner. They sit in their DSP, and all we ask of them is that they transact against our deal ID. So we work with the media owner alongside the agency or the client to create that deal ID, and that deal ID, as with everything, is the way to track the campaign and the amount of cash that's flowing through that campaign, the cash coming from the DSP. So the trader activates against deal IDs as they normally would. It's just that we ask that they have to use our deal ID, and as simple as that sounds, that obviously is something different. So yes, there are changes, but we think they are fairly minute and they're fairly straightforward, as long as that programmatic trader or buyer is linked in and understands what they're doing, why they're doing, and the benefits. Because and this is a big area that we're working on. Before someone clicks live on a campaign, if it's a client that has trade credit, they could be missing a trick from not talking to us and working with us, because there could be programmatic supply that we have via barter arrangements, whereby the client can use that trade credit, or the client can see an additional gain in ROI, or maybe additional products being sold through working with us. So that's the main thing, is just having that front of mind that there is something, there's an additional way to be playing around with this, with these DSPs. But on the surface, we've worked hard to make sure it's just buying against the normal deal ID. On the media owner side, we work with the financial teams, we work with the sales teams on the programmatic teams within the media owners, just to make sure that it flows to them as it normally would. So we've worked on the SLAs with all the invoicing and the billing. We've worked with all their SSPs, how they normally receive their cash. And we've replicated everything. So from their point of view, they'll be paid as they normally would, but just from us, because we're paying them in trade credits, in trade and cash.
Brilliant. Well, that makes sense. I've got one final question for you. If you had a superpower in AdTech, what would it be?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, I could talk for hours about this. I would probably, I don't know the best way to describe this, other than a USB, a universal connector. Everyone uses USB. Every laptop, every brand of laptop, every phone, TVs. It was just adopted, right? I can't remember when it was adopted, but it's there. Everyone uses it. My superpower would be to enable a USB type connector across all digital advertisement. And now I'm not trying to have a dig at the players out there that maybe have their own walled gardens. But if there is a way where the data supply could be connected all universally, it would give a real agnostic view of the world. And there would be, better regulation or easier regulation. There would be easier decisions for advertisers. It would solve all the problems of attribution across platforms, of budget planning and how much you're putting into different partners, of data management, consumer compliance of data, because they would be connected up, I would imagine. I'm talking about, the holy grail of an ad tech solution here, but yeah, even down to the economics of some of the walled garden companies and the way that they're governed and some of the control they have. I think if suddenly the internet went down and we rebooted it and everything was connected evenly on the advertisement space, I think it would improve everything. And obviously that's very unlikely to happen, but that would be my secret sauce that I try and do.
Amazing, great answer. Let's see if that can happen one day. Let's try to be as optimistic as possible. Okay, great. So thanks for your time today, Dom, and joining us on today's podcast episode. Thanks for your time, and we'll speak soon.
No worries. Thanks, Dale. Thanks for having me on.